Hello, and welcome to Timeless Wisdom, your go-to channel for tips that help older adults create comfortable, clutter-free homes. Today, we introduce Dorothy Jenkins, a lively 72-year-old whose kitchen became overwhelmed with gadgets and keepsakes over the years. Frustrated after tripping over a blender cord, Dorothy decided to reclaim her space. Determined to make her kitchen safer and more enjoyable, she tackled common organizing challenges. Stay tuned and subscribe to Timeless Wisdom to learn how she conquered these issues and transformed her kitchen. Dorothy's first lesson, Mistake 1, Overloaded Countertops, came in the form of overloaded countertops. Although many older adults can relate to the comfort of keeping everything within arm's reach, especially if bending or walking is a chore, her kitchen island had become more of a clutter magnet than a workspace. A jumble of appliances, coffee maker, toaster oven, blender, lined up side by side, leaving hardly any clear surface for slicing vegetables or kneading dough. Add to that a mountain of mail, snack bags, and a knife block, and Dorothy realized she'd lost her true cooking station. In the words of Henry Ford, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. For Dorothy, working together meant giving her cherished appliances a purposeful and permanent spot. She carefully chose what stayed on the counter, her must-have coffee maker for those early mornings, and what could be neatly stored away, like the toaster oven in a lower cabinet. This small victory not only freed up critical space, but also boosted her mood, proving that less truly can be more, especially for seniors looking to conserve energy. Mistake 2, Wasted vertical space. With her countertops finally under control, Dorothy set her sights on the next big challenge, using her vertical space. The idea of installing pull-out racks and reorganizing cabinets felt daunting at first, but she sensed the excitement of reclaiming even more square footage. Eager to see just how user-friendly her kitchen could become, Dorothy's next obstacle was wasted vertical space, a challenge that often goes overlooked in many senior households. Being petite in stature and occasionally dealing with sore knees and stiff shoulders, common age-related realities, she had turned her tall cabinets into a kind of storage graveyard. Old gadgets, like an 80s fondue pot, languished up there, gathering dust. Meanwhile, her lower cabinets were bursting at the seams, forcing her to hunch over whenever she needed a plate or a pan. As Albert Einstein once reminded us, out of clutter, find simplicity. With that idea in mind, Dorothy realized she needed a plan for using every inch of her kitchen effectively. A quick call to her friendly handyman resulted in the installation of pull-down organizers and track systems. Suddenly, those top shelves that used to scare her away became fully accessible. No precarious balancing on step stools necessary. Lightweight dishes found a new home up high, while the items she used most often remained at waist level. This improvement brought a wave of relief, both physically and mentally, freeing up space below, meaning her lower cabinets could finally breathe, reducing the need for frequent bending and heavy lifting. Dorothy's spirit soared as she realized that proper planning and a little creativity could offer the comfort and independence every senior deserves. Mistake 3, Poor drawer organization. Dorothy's third challenge was poor drawer organization, a predicament many older adults know all too well. Each time she reached for a measuring spoon or kitchen shears, it felt like diving into a mysterious black hole, never quite sure what she'd pull out. With arthritic wrists and occasionally forgetful moments, let's face it, we've all opened the same drawer twice. Searching for the right utensil became a real chore, leaving her feeling frustrated rather than inspired. Determined to fix this, Dorothy headed to the local dollar store for a simple, budget-friendly solution: drawer dividers. She found small trays and baskets that fit neatly into her shallow drawers. then labelled each one in large, easy-to-read letters. Measuring cups, measuring spoons, tea accessories and more. By giving everything a designated spot, Dorothy cut her prep time in half and spared herself the hassle of rummaging around each day. For deeper drawers, she brought in pegboard organisers. No more fumbling to grab just one skillet from the towering stack. It was as straightforward as lifting a peg and sliding out a pot. This thoughtful approach not only saved her joints from undue strain, but also sparked a newfound joy in cooking. With her drawers finally under control, Dorothy felt a renewed sense of possibility, ready to tackle the next big kitchen hurdle. Mistake 4. Lack of grouping. Similar items, Dorothy's fourth hurdle, was the lack of grouping similar items together, a snag that often sneaks up on older adults who may not want to bend or stretch repeatedly. She'd been storing lids in one cabinet, pans in another. Mixing bowls sat by the fridge, while measuring cups floated around in drawers. This constant back and forth wasn't just time-consuming. It was tough on her knees and, quite frankly, drained her energy faster than she thought she'd like to admit. Realizing she could reduce those extra steps, Dorothy reorganized her kitchen by zones. She designated one area near the stove for all her pots and pans, lids included, so she'd have everything in arm's reach whenever she wanted to simmer a soup or fry an egg. Dishes found a home near the dishwasher, simplifying the chore of unloading something she often tackled with slightly achy joints. This zoning strategy might sound almost too simple, but for Dorothy it proved downright life-changing. Her grandkids no longer had to ask, "Where does this plate go, Grandma?" because the system was clearly labelled and intuitive. The best part? Each small step toward better organisation gave Dorothy more confidence to tackle the next challenge, knowing her kitchen could support her needs with grace and ease. Mistake 5. Deep cabinet chaos. Dorothy's fifth obstacle was the dreaded deep cabinet chaos. Before her kitchen overhaul, every attempt to retrieve something from the very back felt like a trek into a dark cave, kneeling, squatting, and risking a pulled muscle. Over time, her lower back and arthritic knees had grown weary of the endless rumbling. Like many seniors, she longed for a practical fix that would preserve her energy and reduce the risk of sudden aches or accidental slips. Deep cabinets may offer abundant storage, yet they can quickly become a hidden catch-all where rarely used pots and pans vanish from sight. Realizing this, Dorothy enlisted her trusted handyman to install pull-out shelves, a modest upgrade with big rewards. With a single tug, she could finally see the entire cabinet's contents, her hefty Thanksgiving stockpot, favourite mixing bowls for church potlucks, and even an old fondue set she'd nearly forgotten she'd owned. No more awkward bends or wrestling with towering cookware. This seemingly minor renovation turned out to be a major triumph. It spared Dorothy's joints from needless strain and reignited a sense of control she worried she'd lost to time. In conquering these deep cabinet caves, she proved to herself and any senior watching that accessibility and independence can still be a reality, even when we've got a few more candles on our birthday cake. Mistake 6. Ignoring adjustable shelving. Dorothy's sixth revelation came the moment she realized she'd been ignoring adjustable shelving in her cabinets. Like many older adults, she'd kept her shelves in the same position for decades, not wanting to fuss with pegs or worry about drilling holes. As a result, cereal boxes sat wedged in at odd angles, and teetering stacks of dishes risked an avalanche every time she opened a door. Worse yet, her cramped storage forced her to bend and twist to retrieve items, a daunting task with stiff joints and an iffy lower back. Discovering the beauty of adjustable shelves felt like an aha moment. By moving a few pegs up or down, Dorothy created a shelf precisely tall enough for her cereal boxes, plus a shorter one for those pesky plastic containers and their runaway lids. No more precariously stacked dishes, no more leftover containers tumbling out. This small tweak provided immediate relief and heightened her sense of control, an understated yet powerful benefit for any senior. In Dorothy's eyes, making every inch count is more than a clever strategy. It's a step toward independence, a way to ensure that her beloved kitchen can adapt to her needs rather than the other way around. Mistake 7. Storing rarely used items in prime space. Armed with newfound optimism, she prepared to tackle the next item on her list. Dorothy's 7th stumbling block was storing rarely used items in prime cabinet space. She had to confront a little voice telling her to keep it all close by, even though certain gadgets saw daylight only once or twice a year. A giant turkey roasting pan strictly for Thanksgiving was wedged alongside her daily frying pans, creating unnecessary bulk. And that retro fondue pot, once the star of a 1970s dinner party, sat collecting dust under the sink on the off chance she might suddenly host a cheese-dipping soiree. Realizing she didn't need to sacrifice her valuable kitchen real estate for items she seldom touched, Dorothy began relocating these objects to less prominent spots. Her handyman helped install a sturdy shelf in the garage for rarely used cookware. She took advantage of top cabinets and the far corners of her pantry, areas that were still reachable when needed, but not in the way of her everyday utensils. By freeing up space in her lower cabinets, Dorothy felt an immediate sense of relief. She could now glide through her cooking routine without shuffling heavy pans around or awkwardly pushing aside the unwieldy roasting pan. This newfound breathing room also made it simpler for her arthritic hands to grab only what was necessary, giving Dorothy more energy and a fresh optimism that she could streamline the rest of her kitchen one small change at a time. Mistake 8. No defined kitchen zones. Dorothy's 8th realization involved the concept of kitchen zones, a tip she picked up from her stylish neighbour, Mrs. Ellington, who was also in her 70s, but had a keen sense of interior design. Up until then, Dorothy's kitchen lacked any real division between prep, cooking and cleaning tasks, forcing her to shuffle back and forth across the room. For someone with creaky knees and occasionally shaky balance, each extra trip felt like a marathon. Inspired by Mrs. Ellington, Dorothy set up a prep zone near the sink, complete with a sturdy cutting board and her favourite paring knives. Next to the stove, she placed a small utensil crock brimming with spatulas and spoons. Everyday essentials she no longer had to hunt through drawers to find. A blossoming basil plant by the windowsill added both colour and convenience, as Dorothy could pluck fresh leaves whenever she fancied. Then came the cleaning zone, neatly organised beneath the sink. Dish soap, sponges and scrubbing brushes went into labelled bins, allowing her to finish up dishes quickly and painlessly. With fewer frantic searches and less physical strain, Dorothy felt an immediate lift in her spirits. She had finally shaped her kitchen to suit her needs, proving that a thoughtful layout can make all the difference in living comfortably as the years go by. Mistake 9. Poor placement of trash, recycle bins. Dorothy's 9th hurdle stemmed from the poor placement of trash and recycle bins, an issue often overlooked by older adults who might feel the pinch in their knees or back when crossing the kitchen repeatedly. For years, Dorothy had her trash can near the back door and her recycling bin tucked away in the mudroom. It worked fine in her younger days, but these days the extra steps left her feeling worn out, especially while chopping vegetables or cleaning out the fridge. Recognizing this drain on her energy, Dorothy decided to rearrange things for greater efficiency. She opted for a double pull-out system beneath the sink, one bin for trash, one for recycling. This small but powerful upgrade meant she no longer had to interrupt her meal prep to discard scraps or use packaging. Now she simply opened the cabinet and dropped everything in its proper place, a relief for her often achy joints. This practical improvement not only saved Dorothy time and energy, but also made her kitchen routine far more enjoyable. Even her grandchildren noticed how effortless cleanup had become, reinforcing Dorothy's belief that a few thoughtful adjustments can truly transform life in our golden years. Mistake 10. Overlooking labels, categorization. Dorothy's 10th insight was the overlooked power of labeling and categorizing storage. For years, she resisted the idea, fearing her kitchen might end up looking like a mini grocery store. After all, many older adults prefer a homier feel to their space, and Dorothy was no exception. Yet as her eyesight began to dim, she found herself squinting at spice jars, unsure if she was grabbing cinnamon or paprika. Simple tasks like baking cookies for her grandkids grew unnecessarily complicated. Then she remembered the label maker she'd received from her grandchildren last Christmas, still in its box, waiting for a purpose. One quiet afternoon, she decided to give it a try. She labelled everything from salt and sugar to pasta and cereal, creating neat little sections for baking goods, snacks, and canned veggies. Though it felt a bit odd at first, Dorothy quickly realized how much simpler her life had become. No more fumbling for the right ingredient, no more wasted minutes rummaging in the pantry. Even her family noticed how efficiently she moved around the kitchen. It wasn't just about organization either. The labels became a gentle reminder of how far she'd come in reclaiming her space. With each freshly labelled container, Dorothy felt a small surge of pride, proof that she could adapt even in her golden years to make daily life smoother and more enjoyable. Mistake 11. Under-sink clutter. Dorothy's 11th fix addressed a space many overlook, the area under the sink. For years, she jokingly referred to it as her under-sink swamp, a dark corner where half-used cleaning supplies, tattered rags, and extra sponges went to hide. Like many older folks dealing with stiff joints, she hated bending down there, so clutter kept building until it resembled an overgrown jungle. Realizing how often she needed these essentials, even if only for a quick cleanup, Dorothy decided it was time to clear the swamp. She opted for a tiered shelf system, a simple but genius solution that divided her under-sink cabinet into well-labelled rows. Dish soap and multi-surface cleaners each got their own shelf, while extra sponges and stray rubber gloves lived in neatly arranged bins. Suddenly, grabbing supplies for a spill felt effortless. No more dodging toppled bottles or fishing behind piles of mysterious towels. The newfound organization not only saved Dorothy's back from extra bending, but also gave her a spark of satisfaction every time she heard that click of the pull-out shelf. It was like browsing a tiny, well-kept store aisle in the comfort of her own home, serving as a final reminder that every nook and cranny in a senior's kitchen can be tamed with a bit of planning and the right tools. Mistake 12. Ignoring safety to accessibility. Dorothy's 12th realization was that even the most perfectly organized kitchen means little if safety and accessibility are overlooked. Like many older adults, she had focused so intensely on decluttering and rearranging that she nearly forgot the importance of stable footing, bright lighting, and easy-to-use hardware. Essentials when dealing with occasional arthritis flare-ups or unsteady balance. After all, what good is a tidy cabinet if you risk slipping each time you reach for a mop? Determined to make her space truly senior-friendly, Dorothy tackled 3 key areas. First, she noticed the small rug by her sink behaved more like a slippery skating rink than a protective mat, especially when her shoes were damp. A quick fix, adding non-slip backing, made a world of difference, giving her the confidence to rinse vegetables without fear of sliding. She also took a moment to secure any cords that wandered across the floor, cutting back on trip hazards. Next, Dorothy addressed her lighting. Evening meal prep had become a squint fest, with overhead shadows obscuring her view of the cutting board. Installing a simple LED strip beneath her cabinets transformed the space, banishing those pesky dim corners and making it far easier to read labels or measure out spices, a gift for her aging eyes. Finally, she replaced old-fashioned knobs with D-shaped pulls, a kindness to her arthritic fingers that no longer needed to twist and strain just to open a drawer. This trio of updates gave Dorothy not only peace of mind, but also the practical freedom to enjoy her organised kitchen without risking a painful misstep. By prioritising safety at every turn, Dorothy guaranteed her efforts would truly stand the test of time. Dorothy's Kitchen Makeover Summary. Dorothy's kitchen makeover spanned several weekends, each day bringing a small yet significant change. She discovered that letting go of long-ignored items, like the novelty waffle maker she hadn't touched in years, felt surprisingly liberating. In donating them to local charities, Dorothy saw her kitchen transform from a cluttered maze into a welcoming, senior-friendly space, freed from years of accumulated gadgets and mismatched dishes. Her newly organised cabinets and drawers finally gave her the breathing room she'd been craving. By the time she was done, Dorothy's kitchen felt like a bright, purposeful command centre tailor-made for her daily needs. Pull-out shelves made it easy to reach pots without aggravating her back, and clear bins in the pantry helped her find ingredients without squinting or bending too far. She no longer needed to wait for someone taller or stronger to fetch the big casserole dish. Instead, Dorothy revelled in the confidence that came from being able to manage the space on her own. A no small feat when creaky knees and occasional fatigue are part of everyday life. Her children, who dropped by one sunny afternoon, were astounded. "Mum, this is amazing," her daughter exclaimed, noticing the labelled spice rack and streamlined countertops that practically begged to be used. Dorothy couldn't help but smile, knowing her efforts had paid off in more ways than one. The transformed kitchen was more than a reorganised room. It symbolised a renewed sense of independence, a place where she could whip up a quick soup or bake cookies for the grandchildren without rummaging through layers of clutter. Still, Dorothy recognised that keeping the space in tip-top shape required ongoing commitment. She started practising a brief daily tidy, returning measuring cups and utensils to their new homes. Incorporating these small habits gave her the peace of mind that her kitchen would remain the cosy, efficient haven she worked so hard to create. Conclusion. Friends, it has been a delight to share Dorothy's transformation with you, all here at Timeless Wisdom. Her experience demonstrates how some planning and the readiness to clear out clutter can revitalise your kitchen into a welcoming and functional space, suitable for any living situation, from compact apartments to spacious farmhouses. For us seniors, organising isn't just about neatness. It's about gaining independence and simplifying everyday activities like cooking and morning coffee routines. Why deal with cumbersome pans or constantly search for ingredients when a few straightforward adjustments can make such a difference? If Dorothy's story has inspired you to enhance your living space, we invite you to become part of our community. Click that subscribe button to connect with Timeless Wisdom and receive more useful tips, compassionate support, and guidance tailored to senior living. Let's transform chaos into comfort together. One drawer, one shelf, and one well-lit countertop at a time. Keep following Timeless Wisdom for more practical advice, emotional support, and senior-centric guidance. Together, let's replace chaos with comfort, organising one drawer, one shelf, and one well-lit countertop at a time.